Hi, my name is Sam Price, the Crypto Lifer, technical analyst, and I've been looking at these markets for over 15 years, really buying and selling for over 20. I'm 42 now, and I want to break down what's happening here on a macro scale here for Bitcoin for you. We're going to take a look at Bitcoin, Total 3, which are indices that show all of the cryptocurrency and all the cryptocurrency without Bitcoin and Ethereum. That's what Total 3 is. We're going to be looking at the S&P futures, the NASDAQ, the DXY, Bitcoin dominance, Tether dominance, SOLBTC, and maybe something else too as well. So shout out to everybody here. Let's break it down. Let's take a look at what's happening to Bitcoin on a macro scale here once a week, every single Friday. So we had a massive dump, okay? And we talked about this on the macro analysis, right? Every time we were here each week, I would say, there is a bearish divergence on the weekly time frame. And I said, every time I've seen a bearish divergence, we have had a pullback. I said, maybe, and we pulled to the 21-day moving average. It looks like we were coming to it. I said, maybe we get an uptrending flag, though. And I would kind of show you guys this idea, like maybe we have an uptrending flag, maybe we get a sideways flag, but mostly we usually get a downward flag. That's most regularly what happens, right? And you come back to the 21, you pump, and this suggests that we could pull back, but still pump to 143,000 somewhere by July, but that we would pull back here somewhere into February before our next big pump. Again, I wasn't saying that was guaranteed, but it did look like it was likely. Every time I've seen bearish divergence and the stochastic's been high and we've been away from the 21-day moving average, that is my perfect example. That's how I use this model. You can't see it now, but if you were to see it the other way, like from here, that's basically how you get into a long there that goes back to the upside, Alice in Wonderland style. But anyway, that's another time. The point is, this was a beautiful move here, and I really like what I saw. And then coming back down to the 21-day moving average looks very likely. Again, maybe we pull it and we just pull the 21 and we keep going bullishly. But right now, a big pullback did occur. It did look likely that something was going to happen here for Bitcoin. I thought it was very odd that everyone thought we were going to continue to go up when you saw bearish divergence on the weekly. At the same time, every single week, the candle would close green, and I'd have to say, well, that's a bullish sign. This candle finally closed red. Every time a candle has closed red, we've pulled back, pulled back, pulled back, pulled back. It would be a weird anomaly for us to just pump right back up here and not pull back. So to me, it looks like we may pull back, and we may get a pump back up here to 102, but it may just be part of this up and down trending channel that pulls us back into a bit of a flag. So one area that I was keen on to today is 97,200. We really want to stay above 97,200. That's just a very key level that we don't want to lose here for BTC. So that's a level that we want to be very, very keen on. And right now we are going to close below that. That is bearish. If you close below that, I could only assume we would be coming back down to 89,000. All right. And again, pulling that fib here in this way from this wick to there suggests somewhere at about $82,000 we could be getting a pullback. There's a huge gap with the VRVP, and it does say, hey, does you bring us all the way back to 67,000? I mean, that's a possibility just as much as we've ripped. But again, only time will tell. So right now, I am bearish if Bitcoin can't get a weekly close above 97,200. It tells me just to be wary. If I look at the 3-day and the daily, good wickage there. I like it. Not too far from the 21. The daily below the 21, bouncing off the 50. We'd have to get a bounce sooner than later, and the daily would have to get back above this diagonal line. Like, it would have to show me that it could do something like this. I would flag this out. We'd have to get a bounce tonight and into tomorrow, and then we'd have to start going sideways here. We start to dip lower, or even we kind of make a right shoulder there. Look, we might even do something like this. Like, see how that kind of makes sense of right shoulder that comes up? We could even make a right shoulder and go lower there. So right now, I am more bearish than bullish for Bitcoin. Everyone thinks we're going to just reverse out of nowhere. I just don't see it. I really don't. Right now, it suggests that Bitcoin does go lower unless it can close a weekly candle above 97,200. That's going to be really my line in the sand for BTC. I'd say, okay, it is at support. It's holding some support there. Look, bounce, bounce, bounce. It has a lot of support right there at about 96,000. So, okay, let it bounce. So we got to really, it's got to show me a bounce today in the next 2-3 days. I got to see it trying to consolidate, trying to do something inside this flag. If I see it lower than this, it's definitely dropping to 89,000. And then, you got to start thinking that possibly 82 is there. And if 82 is possible, then do we gap down to 79? So I'm more bearish than bullish right now. Bitcoin's got to get back above 97,200 for me to remain bullish. That's my weekly support line in the sand here for BTC. So with that being said, you can see the lower areas that we possibly could go to if we can't hold or maintain that key level. If you want to look at the really small time frames, the 1 hour is attempting to put in an inverted head and shoulder, and that could save us. And we also have resistance at 98.5. 98.5 is a big deal. On the smaller time frames, you must get back above 98.5. Otherwise, I see more downside too as well for BTC. So it's not all lovely. Usually weekly divergence plays out and takes some time. Usually weekly divergence takes some time. I'm saying 5 to 8, maybe even 10 weeks. I'm not guaranteeing it. Maybe we do just bounce right back to the upside, and I'm open-minded. But that's got to happen sooner than later for me to start to see that come to fruition. If we did bounce back up and we started to move, I mean, this measured move would be back on, and you could say, fine, yeah, we're going to pump somewhere to 145,000 by the end of January. So that's still possible, right? It's still somewhat possible that we could get there. You never know. But we would have to get a bounce sooner than later for BTC. Let's take a look at the total market cap in all of cryptocurrency and see what happened there. We were making that beautiful flag. Everything looked dandy. You know, I said, hey, if we stay inside this flag, we're about to rip. I didn't see that flag dumping. It looked nice, but it did have a uptrending trend line. It was kind of like an ascending triangle. If we looked at it closely, they do break to the downside 50% of the time. You know, it had some kind of rising wedge vibes, but it was good signs. It looked like we were continuing this macro move, but we lost the 200 MA there on the 1 hour time frame. So let's look at the bigger time frames and zoom out. But once we lost the 200 there, that really kind of changed the whole vibe, and then we started to dump. And of course, you know, this Bitcoin dumping took the rest of the market to the downside. Look at the weekly, and again, for total market cap, same thing is a strong bearish divergence and overbought nature. This tells me you're usually, when I see this, you come back to a 618 fib. It just is what happens. That says we could get back to 275, and we were at $3.7 trillion. I mean, we were ripping. So from where I see it, the way this goes, and you close a weekly candle red like that, I just don't see how you don't pull back somewhere here before our next big run. So it suggests that we're going to get some type of pullback to 276. And then once, maybe into inauguration or something like that. But it seems like something's happening here. M2 money supply, we're overbought. And the same thing here with Bitcoin, though. Like, I'll leave you with one last, hopeful, bullish thought. But can you get a bit of a bounce? This looks even worse because it almost doesn't have the higher low. It's definitely an M pattern that broke down. You can see this doesn't look, the altcoins don't look amazing. This is the entire, this is the entire market cap doesn't look amazing. This is the total market cap. It might even put a right shoulder in there too. You see that? Shoulder, head, right shoulder. Again, just like Bitcoin, it would have to get a bounce very soon here and start to channel upwards and make an ascending triangle. And then we could be back to business as usual. But if I don't see that and we start to drop, so if by tomorrow you see us lower, like I just see us going back down to the 618 to $2.79 trillion. You've got to get a bounce sooner than later for me to believe that we're going to stay bullishly in a flag here on the total market cap. And again, it looks similar to Bitcoin because Bitcoin has the majority of the dominance. Now we look at altcoins, and they lost that also favored $1.1 trillion level. And now they're below $1 trillion. We need this again. Get that bounce. Make this a flag. Get that bounce. Go tight, and then get the breakout to the upside. We don't want to see this lose this channel and start to drop fast to the downside, right? So the whole market's waiting on the next 4 hours here, 5 hours. Bitcoin rips back up. Can that inverted head and shoulder be made on the 1 hour? Altcoins could follow suit and get this pump back to the upside. But again, we could easily lose this and dump further down too as well. And this could even make a bit of a right shoulder, head, right shoulder. So I'm a bit skeptical of what I'm seeing here. The bulls really have to put in some work to get me back into confident mode. At the present moment in time, you'd have to take into account that if we don't bounce sooner than later, that we're going to drop even lower. This could be a slanted M pattern that wants to go down somewhere to $774 billion. So altcoins don't look amazing. They are very oversold, but remember, you want to look at them on the bigger time frames too, like the 3-day. The one good thing about them is they touch the 21-day moving average in the 3-day chart. And we have wicked back up. Let's see that continue. Let's see if this can consolidate. It's very important we stay above this trend line. We consolidate. And that's a chance that Bitcoin, and the whole market could rip back up and the altcoins would then follow. But this is all the altcoins excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum. And they're basically hanging on a ledge here. We need to get back inside this pattern. And if we do that, we can rip. If we lose this, we lose the 21. It just, it shows that there's definitely more pain. And your next stop would be to $777 billion. I like to look at Bitcoin dominance now and see what's happening. Bitcoin dominance pumps for two reasons. It pumps when Bitcoin is pumping huge and people want to get into Bitcoin and it's just the hottest thing since sliced bread. And it also pumps when Bitcoin dumps hard, because when Bitcoin dumps hard, it dumps the whole market. And what happens when it dumps the whole market? People rush out of altcoins into Tether and into Bitcoin. So if you see Tether pumping and Bitcoin dominance pumping, that means you had an altcoin just completely, an altcoin sell-off. And it was usually, and people were, basically because they'll think, oh, well, Bitcoin won't go down as bad as my altcoin. So I'll sell my altcoin off into Bitcoin, wait for a certain time, and then I'll get back into my altcoin at the right time, right? Those are people who are trading in BTC pairs and BTC portfolios. So a nice bounce there on Bitcoin dominance, and that's what people don't realize. You do bounce when the charts dump. What you want to do is you want to juxtapose this with Tether dominance, and if you see them both pumping together, then you know there's something going on, all right? And we're going to do that in a split second. So, but this looks good to me, but it is consolidating and start to get tight again. And then if Bitcoin steals the show and starts to pump again, Bitcoin dominance still will do damage. We might come up here and then give some relief to the altcoins a couple times, though, inside of the channel. But what I do see is I see Bitcoin probably channeling like this, Bitcoin dominance channeling, and then getting ready for another big move for Bitcoin eventually to the upside. We take a look at Tether dominance, and that should be pumping too as well. And it pumped. Funny, we did look at this recently, and I was like, I don't know, the DXY looked like it was going to move too. So we had this kind of flag, and I even had this circled area. I said, man, this flag could break out. I said, it looks like it could pump. On the macro analysis last week, and look, it kind of did. That's very, very interesting, right? How did we see that? Well, we were very oversold in the stochastics, and there was like a bit of bullish divergence there too. We'd hope it made the flag and dumped to the downside, but eventually that little flag did pump back to the upside. Now, Tether dominance is pumping, but it doesn't look like it has amazing strength. So let's take a look at where I see this going. So you definitely have this kind of falling wedge, broadening falling wedge thing here going, which isn't amazing, but you got it going. You have this double bottom, which was, that was kind of Bitcoin's double, topping out there. And you have resistance at 5% for Tether dominance. I don't know about you, but I'm not about stacking Tether right now. And if anything, there's too much opportunity in these altcoins, Hyperliquid. There's all these other things calling my name that are cooler than Tether. So looks to me like we'll flag out here, but then continue to dump. And so I wouldn't be too stressed out that people are going to be far more excited to be in Tether than into other promising altcoins that could change their life. But you never know. Look for this to flag out. If it starts to pump up bigger than that, then we may be in some problems. But if this starts to flag out, make a move to the downside, that's what we want to see there for Tether dominance. How's gold doing? It was getting beat up by Bitcoin for a while. It finally kind of found its way here and went sideways and tight. I see gold actually ripping out of this flag eventually to the upside. The target's pretty high at $3,400 somewhere by March of 2025. But it looks like gold could go on a bigger tear further to the upside. There's swing up while there's swing down. That's hidden bullish divergence for gold, which tells me that that low should hold. So as crazy as it sounds, it looks like gold may continue. I do see a possible shoulder, head, right shoulder there, but you can almost see that got defied. We'll see what happens, but right now the probability is pretty high that gold will continue to the upside and make a big pump. Gold, baby, gold. And we take a look at the S&P future. I want to see how bad did they dump comparatively to the rest of the market, right? So look, I mean, they pumped, but look, they got right back inside this pattern. They're printing this money, man, M2 money supply. I feel like this was just a cash grab. We're back inside this. I wouldn't be surprised if, because the S&P looks bullish, I wouldn't be surprised if it's back to business as usual. Perfect entry on the S&P right now, in my humble opinion. And my previous long did not get stopped out. You're still in the money. I see the S&P recovering and taking a massive pump to the upside. I know this is crazy, but it looks like next week when I do this macro analysis, we're going to be somewhere pumping to the upside and ripping. And that's my call here for the S&P, and I'm sticking to it. We take a look at the NASDAQ, and the same thing on the NASDAQ. It was just a wickage that made it look like it was going to be the worst thing in the world, but they bounced it right back. I have not a lot of fear here on the NASDAQ. Look, you're back, so you left the pattern. That looked sketchy, but now you got right back inside, and now you're ripping again. So to me, it's just business as usual. Stop hunting. And honestly, shifting money around. And next thing you know, the Fed has to, realize, oh man, if we do this, then that. I see this continuing to pump, getting back into good graces. It's not easy to see. All right. So let me clean this up for a second and redo it. I don't like taking it away because I've had this call ever since 2,800, right? And you're still in the money there nicely. But what I do see is a bullish retest of the top of this beautiful flag. So you have this like flag and you kind of bullishly retest the top of the channel here. And when you bullishly retest on the daily, I mean, you pump hard the length. And so I see a continuation here, and that's actually a beautiful entry. It was a bullish retest that wants to rip. And I see the NASDAQ headed to an all-time high. And I would not be surprised if we're at an all-time high by January 14th. And this thing continues to rip into tomorrow and into the week as well. And I wasn't expecting to say this, but I see a big pump for the NASDAQ and the S&P, which also shows me that Bitcoin's likely going to come back with a vengeance, right? These kind of go hand in hand. Last but not least, let's look at Sol Bitcoin and see what's happening to Sol Bitcoin. If the market's horrible, Sol Bitcoin will continue to collapse. If the market's good, Sol Bitcoin will find its way sideways and continue to maintain. Right now, we have to be honest. Sol Bitcoin fell off. It fell off a cliff right there. We need to see this break back inside, make an inverted head and shoulder, and pump. The one thing is, Bitcoin might recover a little quicker than Sol, and then Sol may have to regain against Bitcoin. What I don't want to see is this dumping even further, because it means that Bitcoin's dumping and Sol is Sol. And right now, that's possible. So we really want to bounce here for Sol Bitcoin sooner than later, because it indicates basically a lot about how healthy the market is. If these pump back together, then we're good, because that's what's supposed to happen. But if Bitcoin keeps dumping and Sol keeps dumping and Sol keeps losing against Bitcoin, that's not a good sign. So we really want to see SOLBTC bounce there off of 0.18677. That's going to be very, very important. Trade of the day, the best trade, in the best three coins right now out there, I'm going to give them to you, are SUI, S-U-I, Hyperliquid, okay, and Virtual. Those three are really holding up amazingly, and also could be promising for possible big pumps after these pullbacks. So anyway, none of that I gave you as financial advice. Please, do your own research, find out coins that you like, but those are three coins that I believe are going to do some damage. Everybody, thank you for watching my macro technical analysis video that I do every single Friday. I hope you had a good time watching this. I hope it cleared your mind, calmed you down a little bit, and got you ready for the week ahead. If you like what you saw here and you want more, I live stream every single day, Monday through Friday, from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. and Saturday and Sunday nights at 8 p.m. And 2 weekend streams in the mornings to keep you going and your jammies when you just woke up. Everybody, I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Please comment, like, and subscribe. Hit the bell for notifications. You can find out when I post my next video. Remember, if you came to the channel, then you're already doing the right thing. Crypto is life.